Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this video is basically the fifth video in our series covering canine hip dysplasia. In this series of videos, I basically talk about my experience with my dog having been diagnosed with hip dysplasia and undergoing a total hip replacement. This particular video is going to be focusing on everything that we did to prep for the surgery, as well as what happened on the day of the surgery. It also covers a little bit more of our specific experience in terms of the delays that we had to endure between the time that Prince got diagnosed with his hip dysplasia up until he finally had a surgery date scheduled. So if you are interested in the rest of the series, I would highly recommend watching the rest of the videos in the playlist. The first video, especially because it is a summary of everything that I will be talking about in for more detail in the rest of the videos that I've made. So if you're interested in learning more about canine hip dysplasia, if you have a dog that's recently been diagnosed with hip dysplasia, or you suspect that your dog may have hip dysplasia, I definitely think this series of videos is going to be very helpful for you. Obviously, you can kind of pick and choose which portion of the series you're interested in. I've split the series into about 6 parts, so I'd highly suggest you start with a summary video, which I will link up here, and go from there. So let's delve right into it. So the last video I covered basically everything up until Prince's diagnosis. Now, following Prince's diagnosis, obviously we had a couple appointments scheduled with our orthopedic surgeon that was referred to us by our vet. Now, obviously the surgeon was the one qualified to do the surgery. He came highly recommended from our vet, and when we did a little bit more research into his background, we definitely thought that he was a really good surgeon to consider for Prince to have his surgery if that's the route that we wanted to go. Obviously, at that point, we weren't completely decided that we wanted Prince to undergo a total hip replacement. We had done most of our research and we were definitely leaning in that direction, but we still wanted to make sure that we asked as many questions as we could and got a better idea of what we wanted to do, and no better person than an orthopedic surgeon to get a professional opinion from. So basically we ended up getting a consultation appointment with the surgeon. He took a look at Prince, and he definitely at first suggested that we get another set of x-rays done for him. The orthopedic surgeon and his team were looking for specific things, and the x-rays that the vet had done were just not detailed enough for them, so we did have to get an additional set of x-rays done for Prince that was requested by the orthopedic surgeon. Following those x-rays, we had a proper consultation with our surgeon where we actually took Prince in with us, and at that point was when the surgeon really dove a little bit more into detail about what a total hip replacement would look like. At that point, we had sort of decided that a total hip replacement was what we wanted to go with, and so he really took the time to walk us through everything. He definitely eased a lot of our worries that we had going into the decision of a total hip replacement, because it is quite an invasive surgery. So we did speak to him quite a bit. He showed us what the implant would look like. He gave us examples and showed us examples of x-rays that he had done on patients where he had done the surgery on. So lots of information that we got from him, which was very helpful, and he definitely did recommend that a total hip replacement was the best option in terms of what we were looking for, in terms of Prince kind of having as close to a full recovery as possible, which is something that I've mentioned in my previous video we were very adamant about. And so we decided, okay, let's just get something up in the calendar. Let's get a date set for Prince's surgery, and let's start from there. So originally we had gotten a date for Prince's surgery, which was about 3 months out from the time that we had set up the consultation and had the full consultation with the orthopedic surgeon. So at the time of the consultation, the surgeon did mention that he was planning on opening up his own practice. And at the time, we didn't really know how far along he was into that process. It just seemed like he was sort of toying around with the idea, and there was some things in the works, but it wasn't really anything concrete as of that point. And we had gotten the date set, and then we realized as Prince's surgery date approached, about 2 months before it approached, so a month after our consultation, we received notification from the orthopedic surgeon and his team that they'd have to move Prince's date and delay his surgery essentially. And we weren't quite happy with the way that we were kind of told, because we weren't given any sort of updates on when the surgery would be rescheduled for. So all we were told was that there would be a delay. They just couldn't tell us how far along the delay would be for. And so at the time, we didn't really think much of it. We just hoped that they would reach out to us in a few weeks to update us and schedule another date. We didn't hear back from them for a bit, and then we found out that basically the surgeon had moved his practice from the original vet clinic that he was working out of, and he was planning to move into his own clinic, but there was just a lot of delays with that clinic being built. I still don't know to this day if that clinic has been built yet, but he was basically hoping to schedule Prince's surgery in his own clinic with his own team. Now, because he had moved out of the vet clinic that he was originally working out of, there were certain, individuals on his team that he had lost. And so his team was very limited, and obviously he didn't really have anywhere else that he was operating out of, so there was no way that he could do the surgery until he could figure out all those details. So as time went on, we kind of kept following up, because we started getting quite frustrated as Prince's condition also progressed. So we definitely noticed that he got way worse during that time between his diagnosis and his surgery. I don't know whether it was just knowing that he had hip dysplasia that made us more in tune to noticing certain things that Prince was doing, or his condition just actually really did progress that fast. I think it was a little bit of both. I think knowing that he had the hip dysplasia, we were noticing a lot more things, and there were definitely very obvious things that weren't really in our heads. Like, for example, at the time of Prince's diagnosis, when we would have Prince exercise a lot. So for example, if he would have a lot of space to run and he could run as fast as possible. So for example, we used to go to the dog park at the time. And so at the dog park, there's just a lot of area to cover, and he just had a lot of room to run. So we would play fetch with him at the dog park. A lot of times we would not even have other dogs around, and so we just play fetch, and he would just run as far and as fast as he could. And we started noticing that as time went on, his limp following the exercise would last a lot longer. And at one point we were really just floored at the idea that Prince was limping for about 2 days after going to the dog park and doing his routine sort of exercise. And so his condition was definitely progressing, and we were definitely getting more frustrated as we were watching him get a lot worse, and his quality of life sort of decrease. And we had to kind of make the decision at that time that we could no longer go to dog parks. We could no longer really run with him. We really had to limit our exercise with him and sort of focus on just long walks rather than going on runs. So we're definitely getting a little bit frustrated at that point, and so it did take about a year to basically put something back on the calendar for Prince, and that was sort of what I wanted to cover in terms of our experience. This was very specific to us. I really doubt anybody else would be going through this, but if you are, that is something to sort of keep in mind. We did at one point even consider maybe moving on to another orthopedic surgeon. Obviously that would have incurred extra costs, because I'm sure they would have wanted their own set of x-rays, they would have wanted to do their own consultations, which come with its own fees, everything like that. And as we were sort of considering that, our surgeon ended up finding the team that he needed and another clinic that he would be able to operate out of in the meantime. And so things end up working out with the same orthopedic surgeon for us, which we're really glad with, because him and his team did an amazing job. But yeah, I think it was definitely a very frustrating year that we had to go through waiting for Prince to finally get his surgery. So that was something that I wanted to cover. For the surgery prep, this was something that really brought me a lot of anxiety. I just felt so in the dark about what to prepare for. I didn't really know how Prince would be when he got home, and I really tried to find videos online that would sort of show me what a dog sort of looks like, or how he behaves when he comes home after the surgery, what I should look for. And so I was doing a lot of that research, and I couldn't really find too many videos or sort of anecdotal experiences on YouTube or online anywhere that would really help me figure out how to prepare. So what I did find was basically little things that I could do in my home to make sure that Prince would be comfortable after his surgery. And so the first and foremost thing was getting a recovery pen for him. So I think this is just the case for, you know, any dog that is especially going through like a TPLO surgery or hip replacement, anything like that, that you should get a recovery pen for them. They would definitely be off their feet for quite a while, and you need to have a space for them that they can sort of be in, and they wouldn't really have free reign around the house, which is a lot more spacious than a crate. Like, you definitely don't want them just stuck in a crate for that long. So the recovery pen offers a little bit more room. It's more of, you know, a little bit more open as well. It's not completely closed off like a crate is, which is nice. So we definitely ended up getting a recovery pen. I'll link that in the description as well for anybody else who's looking to buy one. We just got ours off of Amazon. And so along with the recovery pen came the challenge of training Prince in that recovery pen. So we hadn't crate trained Prince, and he definitely didn't do well in confined spaces. Whenever we did try to put him in the crate, even for a little bit, he wouldn't be very happy in there. So we definitely knew we had to work with him. So we ended up getting our supplies quite early on. Obviously, we had a year to prepare. So we ended up getting, you know, the pen a lot earlier on, and I was able to train him quite a bit in there. I spent about a month training him in that pen to just be comfortable in there, take naps in there. I would just kind of work around the pen while Prince was in there, and he got very comfortable in it for sure. And so that was the first thing that I did to prepare the home. Now with the recovery pen, you definitely want to make sure, so what I read online was that you should at least have a recovery pen for every floor of the house. If you have multiple floors in your house, you should have a recovery pen for each floor. Now, in our case, that was a bit different because we just have the one main floor of the house. We live in a bungalow, so we just had our basement and our main floor. Now, I still wish that I would have gotten another recovery pen at the time, just because I would have liked to have a recovery pen in the bedroom as well as one in the living room, because during the daytime I was spending a lot of time in the living room, dining room area where we had set up the recovery pen originally. And then obviously at night when we were sleeping, we would be moving into the bedroom. And so because Prince is super, you know, clingy and attached to us, he would get very upset sort of being alone in the living room in his recovery pen. And so we had to kind of figure out a way to, you know, make sure that he was still comfortable and not stressed out all throughout the night. We did end up having to move the recovery pen back into the bedroom and then back to the living room the next day. As I was doing it, I was like, okay, it's fine, like I'll just deal with it. But if I had just prepared for it earlier on and gotten another recovery pen, one for the bedroom, one for the living room, I would have done that. Another thing that we did invest in was a large area rug. So where we ended up putting the recovery pen was right near our like living room, dining room area, which is just one big area. And the reason we ended up choosing the dining area was because the backyard door was just like a few steps away. So whenever we needed to take Prince out to go to the bathroom, it would just be super easy to just take him out of the recovery pen as little movement as possible to get to the backyard. And so that was the area we chose. And at the time we didn't really have any rugs. So if you do have any slippery flooring like hardwood or vinyl, anything like that, you definitely want to make sure that you invest in some good area rugs, especially for the area where you're going to be putting the recovery pen and your dog is going to be spending the most amount of time. Because you want to make sure that your dog isn't slipping or sliding anywhere. Obviously, he just had a major surgery. You definitely want to make sure that the implant doesn't pop out if he slips and falls. You obviously don't want to injure him as well. Like it's definitely not fun to have to go through another surgery and feel all that pain or anything. So you want to make sure that you invest in some good area rugs if you don't already have carpeting in your home. If you do have carpeting in your home, that's perfect. You don't have to do anything in terms of that. And that was pretty much it. Like that was all we really did to prepare our home. Like I said, I would have invested in another recovery pen, but yeah, that's pretty much all we did. And it just felt like at the time that it wasn't enough. It just seems like when I list things off, it's just 3 things that we did: was train Prince in the recovery pen, get a recovery pen, and get an area rug. I ended up also finding a really soft dog bed to put in that recovery pen, which was nice because I wanted to get as many things that I could to make Prince as comfortable as possible. The other thing we did to prep was to also make sure that we ended up getting some long-lasting, enriching foods for him. So things like pig's ears, some bones, chew sticks, things like that. Obviously, to each their own. Everybody is very, you know, particular about what they want their dog to eat, and so that was what we had heard from different people. A lot of people suggested a lot of things, and we just were at a point where we were going to try anything and everything, and so we ended up getting a little bit of everything to see what Prince would like. Obviously we kind of started that routine with him a little bit earlier, where anytime I would give him a bone or anything that would take him long to kind of work on, I would just give it to him in the recovery pen so that he got used to being in there and sort of entertaining himself in there. And that's pretty much all we did in terms of recovery. And then the surgery day was upon us, and it was just a matter of kind of dropping him off and picking him up, and it was very, I guess, low to minimal effort on our part. We were just given instructions that we had to drop Prince off at the clinic. The vet clinic was about an hour drive away from us, so we drove quite early in the morning. We dropped Prince off, and at this point we just kind of were at the mercy of the surgeon and his team. Obviously we were nervous about everything for sure leading up to the day, on the day, until we kind of heard updates and things like that. But we were definitely at the same time very confident that the surgeon would do everything that he could. They weren't worried about it at all. Like when we spoke to him and his team, it was just very routine for them, nothing out of the ordinary, and so that definitely made us feel a little bit better. But going through the process was definitely a lot of anxiety anyways, because it's just your baby and your dog, and going through that is something that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. But yeah, so we ended up dropping him off. They took his weight, and the surgeon came out, and there wasn't really much for us to do. He just kind of briefed us, like, if anything does go wrong for any reason, we have your phone number, we will call you before we make any big decisions, obviously. But what to expect routinely was that he would just do the surgery. It would take a few hours, obviously, and then he would just give us a call after he was out and let us know how Prince did and everything like that. And he also let us know, like, after our drop off, Prince would basically be in surgery in about half an hour. So it was quite a quick process. So we dropped him off and went home. We definitely had little to no sleep the night before, just kind of preparing and figuring out what everything was going to be like, talking and trying to make sure that Prince was comfortable. We also tried not to be too anxious, because we didn't want Prince to sort of feed off of that energy and get worried. And so we kind of just, had a bit of a sleepless night, and that morning we didn't sleep until the afternoon, when we got a call from the surgeon. Everything with the surgery was as good as it could have gone. Like, it was great. We got the update from the surgeon that everything was good, and that they would just be keeping him overnight. There would be 2 vet technicians that would be with him all night long, monitoring him, making sure he was perfectly fine, perfectly okay, and they wanted to just make sure that that first night he wasn't moving around much at all, so that there was little to no chance of him knocking out that implant, because that first night is where most accidents could take place. So in order to avoid that, the surgeon wanted to make sure that Prince was just super safe, perfectly monitored under the vet care, and to just make sure that nothing went wrong. And so we got the update from him, and that's when we decided to actually sleep and catch up and sort of not worry as much. We obviously breathed a sigh of relief that he was fine, everything went well, and then it was just a matter of counting the hours until we could pick him up the next day. So once we sort of slept and woke up, it was really nice to see messages and a call from the vet techs that were actually monitoring Prince. They gave us a call at around I think 7 to 8 p.m. that night, let us know that he was doing really well. They would be with him, they were giving him lots of hugs and making sure that he wasn't moving around much, keeping him warm, and sort of just spending time with him, making sure that he was good. Obviously that made us feel so much better, especially kind of spending that night before we got him back. And the vet techs also sent us some pictures. They did give us a warning that in the pictures he doesn't look too great, but don't worry about it, he's totally fine. And yeah, in the pictures it was kind of hard for us to see too. He really did not look great. Obviously he wasn't awake at all, and so he was just completely sedated. And yeah, so that was mostly our experience with the surgery. And I think the best part about that day was just knowing that everything went really well, and it was basically routine. And also we were just really impressed with the way the vet techs were communicating with us, just keeping us in the loop, sending us updates every few hours to just keep us, informed, which was really, really nice. I still think about that and have thanked the vet techs profusely for that, because that was something I wasn't expecting at all, but it was just something that I didn't even know I needed, and it made me feel so much better. So that was basically it. And then the next morning, late morning, we went to pick him up, and everything from his pickup to basically how he's doing now, I'm going to cover in my next video, which is going to focus entirely on Prince's recovery. Obviously, when we picked him up, we got a whole debrief of what his recovery was going to look like, and just so much information. Obviously, a lot happened during his recovery that I definitely want to share, but that is going to be a whole video on its own. And that's pretty much it for this video, and thank you so much for tuning in and for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I would very much appreciate that. And if you have any questions, or if you want to share your experience about canine hip dysplasia, please leave those in the comments below, and I will address those as soon as I can. And yeah, that's pretty much it, and I will see you guys in the next one.